Douglas Murray was asked about the Islamic world and why it failed on the PBD podcast, and he sort of just gave a brilliant explanation to the stagnation of Islamic countries and why this, sort of extremism is hurting them all.
Is that there's a deep failure of recognition of what it is in our societies that's worked. And I think we're at risk of killing the golden goose by saying the gold isn't golden enough. And the things that work in our society are very fundamental. What the framers, the founders, the framers of the Constitution realized. Maybe the only successful revolution in the world. They realized that things like freedom of conscience, freedom of speech were absolutely the bedrocks. And that if you didn't get them, then the rest could not follow. If you don't believe in freedom of expression, freedom of belief, freedom of worship, a whole set of other problems come. They essentially, as I see it, fall down to the fact that if you are in error, you cannot correct it.
If you are in an error, you cannot correct it. Unpack that.
So this is what John Stuart Mill, for instance, one of the great philosophers of liberty, unpacks in one of his most famous works, On Liberty. The free speech, the necessity of free speech in a society comes about in part because if you are wrong, you need to know you're wrong. So, for instance, if you're if you're running the economy and it's not working, instead of keeping on allowing it to not work, you have to have your ears and eyes open for a system that works. And it's by the way, one of the interesting things I find about markets guys in general is their ability to pivot. In a way, by the way, it just goes back slightly to the politicians issue. One of the reasons I'm interested in the way in which market people think is that it's very, very different to the way that politicians think. Politicians can see a wall and they drive towards it at the same speed or faster, and you say wall, 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 and then they hit.
Yeah.
A market guy, you say wall and they move. This is a very, very different instinct. Now, but to go back to this, the ability to correct yourself if you're in error is absolutely key. The lack of information that has been available in not all, but much of the Islamic world for many centuries has caused a deep stagnation in those societies. And as I see it, the oil-rich countries like Qatar and Saudi, although Saudi is interestingly pivoting at the moment, very successfully, really, they have been in the same situation that European monarchies were like in, let's say, the 14th, 15th, 16th centuries, which was they could not grow the economy. There was no such concept, really. You had resources, in those days, sheep and crops, as today the Gulf countries have oil. But that money was held by a small number of people, and there was just no other way of squeezing money from them other than squeezing them further in some form of taxation or invading a neighbor and taking their stuff. Much of the Muslim world, I think, has failed to grow in the way that the West has succeeded in growing in the last few centuries. And this causes many things. One of them is a deep resentment. And one of the most important insights I've ever stumbled upon in my life in relation to that is there's a particular problem in the Islamic world which people don't really talk about very much, but it's this, that the Quran is meant to be the final revelation of God to man, the final revelation. There's none after it. And all the revelations that come before in the Abrahamic religions are part of Islam. If you are the recipients of the final word, and you are the followers of that word, and the followers of that prophet and that God, why is your society not working? And why are other societies working? I think this is a deep psychological problem within much of the Muslim world, which is we thought we were the winners theologically. We're the ones who got the final revelation. And I think, by the way, that much of the anti-Americanism, the anti-Zionism, and anti-Westernism in much of the Muslim world falls down to this fact somewhere at its root, which is how come they're doing better than us when we were told that we were best? And I think it causes serious cognitive dissonance. It's one of the reasons why the Muslim world is so vulnerable to conspiracy theory. It's why when a shark attack happened at Sharm el-Sheikh 10 years ago, the local authorities said that the shark that had eaten the bather at the most popular tourist resort in Egypt had been sent by the Zionists. This is like seeing the hand of the West. So it goes back to our earlier conversation. Seeing the hand of the West in other things is an explanation for why the things are not doing well there. And in country after country, whether it's Egypt, which is doing comparatively well compared to some of them, or Iran as well, the immiseration of the people, the inability to unleash talent, and much more comes back to this small number of people benefiting and having no idea how to unleash talent underneath. That and political and personal and religious freedom, including freedom of speech and freedom of worship, are the absolute prerequisites. And that is why I cannot understand the suicidal anti-Westernism within our societies in our time. Because, as I like to say, the footfall should tell us everything. Nobody, as you say, is trying to go to Iran in order to have freedom of religion. Nobody is going into communist China for a better life, certainly not from the West.
They have a negative net migration, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is why when I think of the sort of college students who believe that no one's had it so bad as you do in 2024 at Berkeley, one of the things I'm sort of amazed at is like, do you not notice that the world wants to come here? And do you not think there might be a reason for that? And do you not think that it might be because there are some things that we've done well here, and that if we've done well with them in the past, we should hold on to those things?
Yeah. You're a history guy. Got a question?
That was just brilliant by Douglas Murray. Just destroys basically this whole Muslim narrative that they're the final revelation, really. Because if you are the final revelation, then what the hell is going on? Why are you failing so miserably? And this is the war between the West and Islam. Islam wants to be this, very radical, very religious sort of continuous group where they don't sort of break. They're the only religion that doesn't fade into this secular, liberal society that the West is sort of portraying across the world. And they're the only ones that are standing strong. But they're the ones that are failing as well. And then you have all these other religions, Judaism and Christianity, which have kept a lot of their beliefs, but are able to sort of, blend with the West. And Islam, due to its extreme sort of verses, as well as just the finite manner of it, just isn't able to do that. And Douglas Murray points that out perfectly, basically destroys the entire Muslim world in a single 5-6 minute clip. For more, subscribe to this channel. If you want to help us make more of these videos, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored. That's buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored. Thank you and have a good one.